So, how do you conquer your old frequency, aka the devil, aka the inner bitch voice in you, aka that little voice that never seems to go away no matter what the goal is or whatever you're chasing after right now? And to be honest, it only comes down to these couple things right here: self-trust and discipline. And you're probably thinking that these are the exact same things, that these are the synonym for each other, but I can assure you that you're not, that they're not, because you already have this. You already have discipline. But there is one main problem that we have with the discipline that you have right now, and that is it is not aligned to the right frequency, aka to the reality that you want to be living. See, the difference between self-trust and discipline, after what I've come to realize after losing 40 pounds, giving up drinking, smoking, all these sorts of things, what I've come to realize is that no matter what you're doing in your life, you're already disciplined. You show up for work, you wake up every morning, you eat the food that you eat. It is just as easy to stay disciplined in the frequency that you're in right now as it would be in your desired reality. The only difference is that you are going off experiences, you're going off beliefs that you currently hold, and that is exactly what's keeping you disciplined to the reality that you're currently living. The difference between self-trust and discipline is that you don't trust yourself right now. You don't trust yourself to make the right decisions because you're not making the right decisions in terms of the goal that you want to achieve. And that is why you have no self-trust. And that is how we're going to be outsmarting the old frequency, by building trust. But the thing is a lot of people go wrong with this. And I talk about this as I wipe this whiteboard because everyone starts too big, right? I'm sure you know someone or of someone that always tells themselves that, or it might even be you, that they tell themselves, this will be different, right? Maybe someone you know went to go lose a whole heap of weight. And for example, they said, I'm going to go on this diet, and I'm going to start going to the gym, and I'm going to start doing this, and I'm going to start going on all these walks and doing all these extravagant things. Now, I'm not saying that that doesn't work, because when I first started out, right, I did 75 hard, so I just jumped straight in because I got so sick of the reality that I was living over and over and over and over again, the frequency that I was living in, drinking, drugs, partying 3 times a week, 4 times a week. I was just constantly in such a rut in life that my frequency was so low. I was constantly in the stress paradigm, the anxious paradigm, but I always, and you might even be the same, wanted something more. But the problem, like I said, is that people go too big. I don't know if that's the right two, but we're going to run with it. Too big, too soon. And the problem with this is that when you give yourself, I don't know, let's say you want to read a book, you want to lose weight, you want to give up drinking, partying, gaming, all the normal things that tend to lower our frequencies to keep us in that survival stress paradigm. I'll put up the map of consciousness here. But when you go try do all these things at once, now I'm not saying it's not impossible, of course it's possible, but what this does is it allows the old frequency to come in and fucking attack. Why? Because there's so many things that you have to do, that you tell yourself that you have to do. And as soon as you don't do one of them, as soon as you don't do one of these things right here, that you told yourself that you were going to do, the old frequency, it comes at you, and it comes at you hot, right? Because as soon as you don't do one, what your mind instantly, aka the old frequency, is going to do to you is that if you say, oh no, I missed reading. what happens, and I'm going to use weight loss again, for example, but let's say you missed reading. Right, what happens then is that the old frequency is going to be like, oh, well, you don't have to stick to your diet today. Right, and then what happens then is that you go, oh, well, it's the weekend again. I may as well go for a drink with my mates. I've already missed the other stuff, so it doesn't really matter. And then you end up going out and partying, and then you live the same habit loop over and over and over and over again. Now, I'm not saying that you can't do all of these at once. You can't give them all up and start something new. But what I am saying is that when you tell yourself that you're going to do something over and over and over and over again and you don't do it, you miss one, the old frequency comes in and it tends to attack. It tends to just come at you, right? And that's why in your head, that's why consumption especially is so bad. So let's say you wake up and you scroll on your phone, for example, and then after that, you go straight into eating breakfast, and then after that, constantly you're already consuming in the morning. So one tip for that I love to do is just intermittent fasting, right? To about 12, 1 p.m., break it with some protein, break it with some fruit, really, really good healthy foods. But what I'm trying to say is that the more things that you tell yourself to do, the more opportunity that the old frequency has to come in. And that's why people in the beginning, they start too big, too soon. And the old frequency is just going to come at you, going to attack you. So what I wouldn't do is what I did in the beginning is I jumped in and did 75 hard, right? Like I said earlier. But what I wouldn't do is that, right? Because when you do that, you're going to fail. You're going to give in to that little conquer, to that little inner bitch voice within you. And it comes in literally all shapes, size and forms, as you probably already know. Now, what would I recommend doing instead? Right? Because the honest gap between you new you is time plus action. Now, the new you has an identity, right? So what you need to understand is that those of you who, there could be two people here, right? You're anchored to your beliefs. So let's say one person, person one, and person two, let's say they want to lose weight. Now, the identity of someone that wants to lose weight knows in their head for a fact that walking on the treadmill will help them lose weight. Now, if they believe that, now this is a very simple analogy for you to use, but if they truly believe that and they make it their identity, that person is obviously going to stick to it for a longer period of time. But you have to make it a lifestyle. You have to make it an identity. You have to make it part of who you are. You can't just say, I'm going to do it for a certain period of time and then give it up. That is not how becoming a new identity works. Because otherwise, the old frequency, it doesn't matter. That's why you see so many people, they'll lose weight, but then they'll put it back on. Why? Because they didn't change their identity. They didn't change who they believed themselves to be. Right? And when this happens, of course, when someone loses a heap of weight, but they don't change the underlying problem, the underlying belief about who they are, and you can conceptualize and extrapolate this to literally anything that you want. Right? Whatever you just desire yourself to be. If you don't believe you're good enough for the job, if you don't believe you're good enough for the income, if you don't believe you're the type of person that can get the job, that get the woman, that can lose the weight, that can get in shape, then you will never ever beat the type of person that believes that they can and ties themselves to the identity. That is the key part that I want you to know here. Right? Because the person that identifies with the actions that it is required to take, that is the person who will inevitably win. And I know it sounds simple, and I know it sounds easy, but why don't we do it? Because the old frequency comes back time and time and time and time again. I'm tired. I don't feel like it. I'm lazy. Well, you probably don't say I'm lazy, but your underlying beliefs, what you truly believe to be true about yourself. I don't want you to bullshit yourself here. I want you to truly extrapolate and truly think to yourself, who do you believe yourself to be at the core of your absolute being? Not who you think yourself to be, who you actually believe yourself to be. Because I'll wipe this off. Because when we know where we are, we can change. See, everybody, they want to make more money. They want to get in better shape. They want the better job. They want the woman. They want all this. But they don't know where they are right now. They don't know who they believe themselves to be right now. They don't look inward. They constantly look at the world asking for validation, but they don't look at where the beliefs are, where they are right now in this world, who they believe themselves to be when they look in the mirror. Because when you understand who you truly believe yourself to be, that is when you can finally actually make the change in your life to become someone new. I can tell you where to go. I can tell you exactly how you can get in shape. I can tell you exactly what to do. I can tell you every single solitary thing that you need to know. But if you don't know where you're starting, how will you ever get to where you want to go? How can you ever build trust if you don't know where you're starting? If you don't know where you are right now on the trust spectrum on who you are when you look at yourself in the mirror, if you don't understand truly who you believe at the core of your absolute being to believe yourself to be, how do you ever expect to get to a new spot? And one of the best ways that you could actually possibly do this, I promise you, is very, very simple. Because there's only really two ideas where beliefs come from, or beliefs, and that is through your, oh shit, we're having fun. Is through your experiences, personal, and the hive mind, aka other people, aka groups, etc., etc. So there's only really two places that you can get your beliefs from. Personal experiences that you've been through, literally through yourself, that you've been, gone, been, done, had, done, been, like you wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, you've experienced that, you did it, right? Then the hive mind. These ones, fucking hard, right? Because the hive mind basically means a group of people. A group of people where, or let's say, for example, at the underlying core, to lose weight, all you need is a calorie deficit, right? But then someone came along and said intermittent fasting, which is really good in terms of, but then you had keto, carnivore, but it's a group of people, right? You didn't experience it yourself firsthand, but what happens is that this group of people, they lead you to believe that that is the truth, right? But beliefs are only hidden truths. That's why they say what do they say? No truth, half truth, half truth. Damn, you got me stumped here. Something like there are no full truths, there are only half truths. There are no full truths, only half truths. So basically, what you're really dealing with here is your personal experiences and the hive mind, aka these basically are your beliefs, right? And the best way to find them is to figure out your personal experience and ask yourself, what do you deem true about the world? And over here equals parents, childhood, teachers, etc. Groups of people that you grew up with and that you put on a pedestal when you were growing up. Now, that you've got that understanding, it's pretty simple and straightforward from there. If you have a goal right now that you want to get to, you must first understand these. You must first understand your own beliefs about the world and then ask yourself one simple question. Because this is how we can start building self-trust. Whoa. Maybe we'll go with blue. One simple question. You have your beliefs. Who do I need to become? And the thing is, you don't become them out there. You don't become them out on this physical realm. See, a lot of people, they teach this wrong. Who do I need to become? That doesn't happen on the physical realm. That is the last place that you want to come out here and actually be, right? First, you must be internally, right? You must be in your head. It must be done. You must become the identity in your head mentally, and then I promise you the actions will come after that, because God will lay the path for you. Because everything starts internally and then it becomes external. But everyone thinks that your reality shapes who you are. But no, you shape your reality, because the world is not a mirror. No, the world is not a window. The world is a mirror, aka it's a reflection of who you are, of your internal state, of your internal being. Now, when you truly come to understand this, you have to identify with this person. Now, of course, we want the physical realm. We want to be able to come out and extrapolate what our mind's telling ourselves, what our mind tells our identity. But that is why the Bible says continuously over and over and over and over again, be, do, have. Be, do, have. Be, do, have. Not have, do, be. It's none of that bullshit. You must be first. Right? You must internally be that person before the external, before reality shows it back to yourself. So you must identify with the person that you want to become. And then from there, you can start building that self-trust anchor. Because this identity, God is going to give you an intuition, hunches, actions that you must take to build that self-trust within yourself. Because when you have God, you have everything. And that is exactly how you build the self-trust, because God is going to lay the path for you. But you first must identify with it internally, right? And then you can build the self-trust through the intuitions, through the hunches, through the actions. And any time that you doubt yourself, any time that you feel the old frequency, aka the devil, aka whatever you want to call it, the inner bitch voice, that little bitch voice that's coming at you. Anytime you feel that self-doubt, that fear, that guilt, that stress, that anxiety, all of the bullshit that you know that you don't want to feel, you must come to understand that this has absolutely nothing on God. Because God is infinite. And any time that you think the old frequency is coming back, you need to not think with your conscious thoughts, but you need to think with God, because God is infinite. And any time that you try to use your conscious thoughts over God, because we are finite, you're going to lose to the old frequency. But when you rely on God, and when He lays the path for you, and when you get the intuition, the hunches, the actions, and continually build this self-trust, the old frequency will be conquered. And it is conquered. But yeah, these will get better. But for now, thanks for watching. If you need help building your mindset, building your physique, I coach metaphysics and I coach fitness. Shoot me a call. There's a link down below in the description. Let me know in the comments if you like the video. Thanks very much.